All right, everybody. I've got another very special guest for you. I want everybody to welcome to the show John Dexter. Welcome,
How's
John.
it going? Sorry for the late late show up time, but I'm here, ready to go.
All good, all good. So, John, first time being on the show. We're going to talk a little bit about your series Dime Store Detective, and we'll get into that because you're currently running on Kickstarter. But I got to put you through the gauntlet. So let's hear the origin story. What got you into comics, and when did you decide you were going to start writing these things?
Oh, I'd say like any kid growing up, I loved Spider-Man. I was a kid of the '80s, so Spider-Man was pretty big. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was very popular, but it wasn't until in my early teens when I watched the X-Men cartoon on Fox Kids. That was just a huge influence on me. Still is. It was the first time uh, teens and kids had watched a comic book characters in a serious tone. It very a lot of relatable characters in there, a lot of angst and discrimination and all the serious topics that you weren't used to as a kid in comic books or watching them on TV. So it really made me just become obsessed with the X-Men and Wolverine, and I was using my paper route money to buy back issues of the X-Men, anything they had to do with Wolverine and Sabretooth. I was all into. So
That
that
was
really
Batman
began.
animated series for me.
I'm sorry, what?
That was Batman the animated series for me.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's about equal, 50-50 people. Batman was cool, but I'm definitely Marvel. I grew up a Marvel guy. But
Well,
Batman was really cool. I liked I'd like the tone of the X-Men, and
it's
so
it's really
then
funny because sorry to cut in again, but it's
right.
really funny because I love the X-Men cartoon as well. Like those are two staples. I watched my father growing up and everything, and I grew up to be a Marvel kid still, and to this day, like love. There's a freaking Marvel banner right there,
Yeah.
um, but never got into the X-Men other than that cartoon.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah,
I was. Yeah, I think Chris Claremont had the longest run, the highest quality run of the longest run of anybody in comics. I mean, his run with the X-Men is kind of unparalleled, really. Um, so yeah, I was pretty big until Onslaught, and then I lost all interest. Like everybody else, seems like in the early 2000s, Marvel ended up declaring bankruptcy because they just oversaturated the market. So, but now and then in early 2000s, when Brian Michael Bendis came and Mark Millar and started the Ultimate Universe, I kind of got back into it for a long time. So.
yeah, definitely. I like I said, the only X-Men I got into was when Hickman took over, and as soon as he left, I was like, yeah, that's enough. I, I don't know what it is. X-Men just never really clicked for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will fully admit that I've never really dug deep into the Claremont run, and that's one of my like shame list items. I call them the shame list, where there's
Yeah.
these books that everybody should read in this industry, but we all have ones that we never read. And like, books like, Watchmen are on there, and Sandman, so on and so, and Claremont's X-Men's on there. For me personally, that's on my list that one day I will get to, but I just never have the energy because X-Men just never really appealed to me.
Yeah. Well, it's to each their own.
Yeah. But, but yeah, so I mean, you're reading all that growing up, you're loving it. I mean, when did you think, hey, I think I could write one of these, or I have a story I'd like to get out in this format? When did that pop in for you?
I've always been writing ever since I was a kid. It was more towards the screenplay format. I was a big fan of movies, classic movies. Of course, like most little kids in the 80s, Star Wars was a huge influence, almost as big as X-Men, really. So I've always been writing, but I kind of wanted to be a screenwriter. And then when Alpha Dog's idea came around, it was definitely geared towards more of a comic book genre. These talking dogs, I don't think it wouldn't really play well with the movie audience. I don't think so. I decided to make my second comic book. I had written one called Steelhawk about over 10 years ago, and that was a flying turd. It was my first foray, and I think I sold like 5 copies. So That was my first comic book, and then I kind of gave up on that and just went back to screenwriting until Alpha Dogs, and it fit really well with the comic book genre. It's about these dogs that have their own distinct abilities. It's the main focus of the story is a dog named Buck, who is inspired by my own dog, Pit Bull Mix. Mine was Pit Bull Mix. His is a pure Pit Bull. Buck has the ability to heal from any wound. He's smart enough to understand human speech, and he has heightened strength. Him and his owner and this older, grumpier Pit Bull that shares in his abilities are on the run from mercenaries that are attempting to kidnap the dogs to manipulate their powers. They had lived in seclusion with their owner all their lives. And Buck thinks his owner can do no wrong, like most dogs, until she brings a new boyfriend home. But little does she reveals the dog's abilities, something she's never done because she's so smitten with this guy. She's lived a very lonely life, living with just her and her dogs. But little does she know that her boyfriend already knows of the dog's abilities and has created this formula that once in possession of their blood, he creates his own dogs with their own distinct abilities. So it's kind of act like X-Men for dogs, sort of, to a certain extent. But it's a fun read. It got funded on Kickstarter, issue 1, and now I'm on my 7th Kickstarter with my other title, Dime Store Detective, which is a totally different genre, but just as entertaining.
Yeah, I know I've seen Alpha Dogs in the wild, if you will.
Yeah.
It's always kind of in the periphery. I see it, and then the one that always pops up, the cover that always pops up when I see it is this one right here, going to your Kickstarter for the new one.
That's been one of my more popular covers for sure. That's been my most popular variant. That's my Star Wars homage cover.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it after my all-time favorite movie. So,
and I either see this one or I see this one right here. 2 homage covers.
Those are my 2 newest covers. That's for issue 4. That was my last Kickstarter.
And it does seem like a cool series, and I think the covers really pop for it and make it.
Yeah, and you can buy all 4 issues that are currently out on this Kickstarter for Dime Store Detective. So if you missed out on Alpha Dogs, you can catch up. It's a great place to catch up with the series too, because that's the first story arc is issues 1 through 4. We start out with Buck seemingly dead on this beach, abandoned, and he heals from his wounds because he has the power of regeneration. And throughout the series, we flash back to try to figure out how he ended up on this beach, abandoned. And in issue 4, at the very end, we answer that question. So it's a nice bookend to the 4 issues. So it's a great place for someone to come in to read Alpha Dogs. It's got a lot of it's growing. The audience is growing for it, so it's something to check out too.
Are those 4 issues like the first story arc?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and then in between, funny enough, I've been seeing Dime Store Detective running around, and it always intrigues me a little bit because I like crime noir stuff. And anyone that does this, and I'm sure people listening to this aren't like me, where you run into so much stuff and you're just seeing stuff all the time that sometimes you don't connect the dots that one person is making both these books. And especially if it's someone you don't know. And so I've seen both of them and been like, oh, this looks intriguing. And then, oh, that one looks intriguing. And never really pulled the trigger on getting into them. And to find out it's the same guy is really cool because it reminds me of one of my favorite writers, Chip Zdarsky, who you can buy 2 Chip books and they're not the same in the slightest.
Yeah. Yeah, these are definitely very different. If you like crime noir, then I think you'd be a big fan of Dime Store Detective.
Yeah.
It's I kind of describe it as Stephen King's It meets True Detective. It's not to say no one's ever done a noir supernatural story, but it very rarely do. It's almost its own subgenre. It's about this detective named Donald McInder who is really vilified by the other cops and the high brass. He kind of, I don't want to say plays by his own rules, but he's definitely a maverick detective. He's not trying out there to kiss Bud or anything like that. We start out where he discovers the 3rd victim of the serial killer. She's left on display in this Christ-like display in the woods in the Appalachian Mountains. and she's coincidentally, over the burial grounds, the detective's father and uncle had buried multiple bodies 40 years ago when they were involved with this moonshine war. Um, I kind of think a very dark episode of Dukes of Hazzard. These two cousins are moonshiners, four generations of moonshiners, very proud family in the mountains of Georgia. And then the Dixie Mafia comes in, this gang, to push them out of business, but they're not about to, roll over. They go to war with these guys. And in the process of finding a new place for their still, the cousins come upon this cave hidden in the Appalachian Mountains. And there's always been a folklore to the Appalachian Mountains of, Bigfoot or strange disappearances in hidden caves. Well, they come upon this hidden cave that's got a slate over it, and go in, of course, instead of heeding the warnings drawn on the cave of this creature with people with spears fighting it, hieroglyphics, you could almost say. They enter in the antechamber and release this evil entity that's been trapped in there for hundreds of years. And I don't want to give too much away of the story, but you can probably see from this cover behind in the background, that's the two cousins, and one of them is possessed by that evil force. So, the story goes back and forth 40 years when the detective is 8 years old, and the kind of the moonshine war that goes on when the detective is a little kid, and this evil entity that's possessing his uncle, and all the fallout from that. And it really turns the city upside down. And now 40 years ago, maybe this malevolent force has returned to wreak havoc on the detective and his family. So it's an exciting series. If you like hard-boiled stories, kind of like your LA Confidential or your Brubaker stories, but then something totally different mixed in there that with a supernatural feel to it, then you'll enjoy it. You're not going to see another comic book on the shelves like it.
You said the magic word, everybody. Brubaker, one of probably my
I'm a
favorite
huge
writer of
fan.
all time.
Yeah, he's definitely in my top three. I've got Brubaker, Ryan K. Vaughan, and I don't know, probably Chris Claremont. So those are kind of the three bigs. But yeah, I read a lot of Brubaker. So if you like Brubaker's stuff, then I think you'd like it.
So when you first did Dime Store Detective #1 and you have Alpha Dogs going on, was there any trepidation that you're doing something so different than the previous book? Or is it all about just, I think I have a great book here and I just want to get all my stories out there?
Yeah, I mean, if I could have played it safe and did like offshoot of Alpha Dogs, because that's kind of been gaining popularity. But I would have felt very sure, and I really can't help myself. I think Dime Store Detective is a great story. I wrote it in a fury. There's 8 issues in all, and I would write an issue every 2 days, and I wrote all 8 issues in a month, less than a month. So all the issues are done. They've been done. And I'm excited to reveal each issue. They're really fun reads. Like I said, it's not something you're going to find anywhere else, I don't believe. But if you're a fan of True Detective or LA Confidential or those hard-boiled noir books or comics, kind of like that Texas Blood, Chris Condon, who writes this Texas Blood and the Enfield Gang Massacre, he read it and he wrote a very glowing review that he allowed me to share. So there's a lot of people that have come to enjoy it.
That's awesome. So, I mean, let's move over to the campaign here.
Yeah.
So as we're sitting here today, you still got a couple weeks to go. Haven't quite hit the funding goal, but it looks like you're going to get there with your momentum here.
Yeah. It's definitely been a slow month, I think, for a lot of people's Kickstarters. But going on shows such as yours helps a ton.
So, I mean, talk a little bit about the creative team here. Who's doing the art for you on all this?
So the artist, his name is Alfonso. They're Stone Tower Studios out of Argentina. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they've done work for Marvel, DC, Boom. They're the best. But yeah, they encompass everything. Then Lucas Shurita, does all the the lettering and does all the technical aspects of it. Helps with the page breakdowns. And then there's oh boy, I'm sorry, I'm getting brain fart. Lucas, there's another Lucas. He does the coloring as well. And yeah, they're fantastic. And I've had them throughout all the series because they do such a great job. But yeah, uh, I'm trying to get his name. Alfredo Retmar is draws it and does all the inks, and Lucas Orita does the colors.
Yeah, and you can tell. I mean, I got to read issue 1 and look through it, and you can tell with the art. What's always important about a crime noir book is the art. Like,
Yeah,
it's so important to be able to. It's not like a superhero book where you can tell the difference between Superman and Batman, even if it's drawn kind of poorly.
yeah.
With a detective book, like everybody has to feel unique and have a lot of expression, and that can be tough for artists. And I think your artist nailed it on this because every character has a unique look, and you can follow who's who in each panel, which is quite the accomplishment.
Absolutely, yeah, and they just did a great job with the tone, with the coloring. It gives it that real noir feel to it. And in the story, because we go back and forth 40 years throughout the story, I wanted to make sure nobody got confused, and also kind of give it that old school feel too. So in the present, it's in color, and then when we flash back to 1981, it's in black and white to help differentiate. Plus, I think it gives it a nice feel to the old dime store novels too. So I wanted to, like I said, not confuse people because once you start confusing the reader, then you've lost them.
Definitely. And for the campaign, you've got a bunch of different covers, like cool covers.
Yeah, that's the throwback to the dime. So obviously taking the name Dime Store Detective, it's got the dime store novel, that pulp feel to it that they used to make on the covers. They would do really dramatic covers. The lady tied up in the 50s, it was usually a mad scientist because they were in the nuclear age, but they would have these scary ghouls in these dime store novels from the 30s and 40s. So I wanted to capture that with the coloring and the tone for this first cover.
Then we got the second cover, which is our background here of the two cousins.
Yeah, they're cousins. Everybody thinks of them as, they're called the Mackinac brothers. People think of them as brothers because they're so close, but they're actually cousins. And here they're on top of the car that's kind of a character in itself, 1973 Plymouth Barracuda that the Moonshiners outrun the cops with. And, people familiar with that, like Dukes of Hazzard, they would have souped up cars to outrun the law back then. So for my story, it's a 73 Cuda, which I'm a big fan of, and it's passed down from father to son. So the detective in today's time period is driving around the Barracuda.
Yeah, and this cover in particular, obviously, I mean this as a compliment. It depends on how you feel about the series, but it really reminds me of a Crossed cover.
Okay.
And the detail of it and like the brutality of it.
Yeah.
It really pops off the page.
Yeah, I'd like to have, as one of my variants, I'd like to have a cover that's really up close in your face. I did the same thing with Dime Store 2. There's a great cover on Dime Store 2 where they're at a church, and I just want that close up, like right in your face, variant covers on there. Plus to give it a totally different tone of the other covers.
We got cover 3 here.
This is my movie poster cover. So here you see the cousins entering the cave with the warning on there. And of course, guys in their 20s are not going to listen to a warning. They're going to keep on going.
Yeah. So I almost hate to admit this, but what movie is this? Because I'm not getting it.
Oh, it's not a movie. It's just a movie. I wanted to have a movie poster feel to it. Yeah, it's not after a movie. I wanted something to look really dynamic, kind of like a movie poster.
I always feel a little dumb with the movie homage. Like, dude, the comic homage covers I can get almost every
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
but the
No,
movie
it's not a
homage
movie.
ones, I'm like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, it's not a movie homage. It's just I wanted to have that movie look to it, and that's
Yes.
trailer 2, which is a great trailer.
So we got 3 great covers, and that kind of leads us into what people can expect for rewards. I
Yeah.
mean, you got a lot of the basics. You got the digital, you got the
Yeah,
print.
well, it's a 28-page comic, so there's some things that are might people might say, well, that's a little more expensive than a $10 comic, but nowadays, if you're even a lot of times some comics are just 21 pages. So for this being 28 pages, I bumped the price a little bit, but still compared to a lot of Kickstarters, it's not. I mean, I see a lot of Kickstarters that are going at 15, $20 for a book. So I kept it at 12 and then 14 for the new one because, I'm trying to get it funded.
Yeah, I think 15 has become standard.
Yeah.
I still personally, I always, the line used to be 10.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you can fiddle with that line a little bit, but I've noticed more and more 15 or
Well,
higher.
yeah. And that's because the prices have shot up. I mean,
Yeah.
we're in an inflation time. That's probably why Kickstarters are not doing as good as they did, say, 6 months ago. So you could kind of have a little cheaper, but boy, the cost for everything has went up so much that creators are forced to bump up their prices a touch. So, but there's ways to get around it. Like with here, you can get it for $14, or you can get the collector version, which on this one it's $17. So it's $3 more, but your name is added to the thank you page. You get a Kickstarter exclusive sticker. I sign the comic book, and so you get a lot of bang for your buck.
So a few extra little goodies. As we go down, it's a lot of adding on to what we had. So different covers, all the covers together,
Yeah,
signatures. And then I was looking earlier. So you can get the whole series with every cover right here.
yeah, yep. Every cover that's been made. I'm running out of the regular cover for issue 1, so I want to jump on it if you're so inclined.
The retailer
Yeah,
package.
yeah, I do those for only $10 a piece, and then
And then this is actually, in my opinion, the best bang for your buck.
yeah, and I'm surprised no one has jumped on that yet. I'm only offering it to 3 of them because all I have for the original artwork is issue 1. The rest were done digitally, so I'm not going to have very many of those that I'm going to want to let go. I've already sold 5 for previous Kickstarters, so I'm only going to offer 3. So yeah, I'm a little surprised that no one has jumped up on the original pages, but that's going to be it.
Yeah, I see original pages go for 2 or more. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I kind of screwed up on placing it if you're watching the video version, but there's an original piece of art behind me, and that's much more than 140. I'll tell you that much. And so to get an original page from the series at that price is really good. Plus, you're getting the book as well, and you're getting all the little extra rewards too in there.
Exactly.
And then these are always interesting to me. The virtual meet and greet. Have you gotten anybody to jump on that?
From previous campaigns, I have. I've been lucky enough that one person will jump on it. Usually, so no one has yet, but I throw it out there just in case somebody wants to be nice and give me a nice big chunk of money to talk to me.
Well, and do you offer anything those meet and greets, or do you guys just talk about
Just
football
whatever they
or?
want to talk about. Usually, just talk about the comic book and the process of creating one.
Okay, so you do get some people that come on and are like, "Hey, I want to create my own. How'd you do it?" That kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
but like I said, it's mostly somebody that knows me. I've only had one person that doesn't know me that buys it. So, but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
always just an interesting tier I see here and there, and a lot of
yeah,
times it's meet and greet with like advice and all that.
yeah. Well, like I said, whenever they want to talk about, I'm just happy they want to support the comic.
And then the always appealing stretch goals. So talk
Yeah,
to me about these stretch goals you have planned.
yeah. So this one, the 3,000, you get a higher paper stock. I hate because people are spending a premium to support your Kickstarter. I try my best to make sure the quality of the comic is top notch. It costs a lot of money for the artist because I want a really great artist. So if we're able to achieve the 3,000, then I can afford to get higher quality pages for the comic. And the 4,000, it's exclusive. It's not this one. It's going to look a little bit different than this exclusive print. So it'll be really cool. And then of course the 5,000 one is those bookmarkers.
And 6,000 coming soon.
Yeah, by some chance.
And then you show some preview pages from the
Yeah.
issue in here that kind of emphasizes what I said earlier about the art and the characters.
Great artwork.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I liked it. Like we go from these bright moments inside with the detectives talking and everything, and then just bam, straight to the occultists.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good stuff. Yeah. And then for add-ons and everything, I mean, I'm sure you have add-ons. You talked about Alpha Dogs. Is there anything else like kooky and fun in the add-on section?
Well, you can get your own, which is a tier as well, your own custom toy Barracuda off of the comic book. Like I said, the car is kind of a character in itself. It's the bootleggers, moonshiners getaway car, and then it's passed down to the detective. A really awesome, if anybody's familiar with the Barracuda, 73 Barracuda. And so I wanted to kind of do something as a fun reward and also an add-on. So we do a custom packaging. My wife does it for a toy Plymouth Barracuda that's modeled after the car from the comic book.
Oh, that's really cool. Did you guys hand paint it, or did you get somebody to make it?
No, it's not so much the car. But it's the packaging that's custom.
Okay.
She does a lot of work with doing the patterns. She does the Cricut stuff. So.
So the comics is a family business over there.
Yeah, exactly. She helps edit my scripts as well. So she's been a huge help.
Awesome. And so you said this is planned out to be eight issues for the whole series?
Yeah. If we can keep her moving and keep getting funded. Like I said, it's been a rough month, but from what I understand, it's been a rough month for most Kickstarters. So any little bit helps. And if you back it now, no funds come out until after the campaign ends and it's successful. So a lot of people wait because they think, well, I don't have the money right now, but actually nothing comes out until it'll be 19 days from now when the Kickstarter ends.
Yeah, I can promise you everybody it gets dangerous because then you have 4 that end at the same day and you didn't realize it.
Yeah. I know.
It's the campaign looks great. I mean, the first issue was a lot of fun. And you see the love in the book and like the art and everything. But when we get down to it, so is issue 3 done? Is it ready to be printed?
We're over halfway done. Yeah.
Okay.
There's this. So it's over halfway done. I project that I'll be able to start mailing them in December at the latest. But I'm shooting for November because I've got the Motor City Comic Con. It's the biggest Comic Con in Michigan, one of the biggest ones in America. They just announced some of my favorite actors, Ralph Macchio and the guy that plays Johnny Lawrence, Cobra Kai, Karate Kid. They're going to be there, so it's a huge get, and I'm really excited to meet them. So I'm hoping to have the comics done for that show, which is in mid-November. We'll see. It'll be tight, but that's my goal. But over half the comic is done, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. But it always takes a little bit longer than what you perceive, especially towards the end.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I was going to ask if there was another campaign in your thought process right now, but it seems like if the book's still in process, you're probably just thinking about getting this issue done.
Oh yeah, exactly. Trying to get it funded. That kind of becomes your obsession. Plus, you have a day job as well. So right now, I'm just concentrating on trying to get Dumpster Detective funded, get that together, and like I said, it's a lot of fun. And if you like issue one, you're really gonna like what comes out next, because issue one's always the tough one because you're setting up this world. You got to have some exposition. You just try to keep it as fun as you can with giving origin stories of these characters. So once issue one's done is when I can really kind of expand and get into the real heart of the story. So it just the comics just get better as that goes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, issue one's it's always tough because we're all kind of feeling the tightening of money these days.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it's a tough month for Kickstarter. I think it's been a tough year for Kickstarter.
Yeah,
And
it has.
and for me personally, as a reader, across all whether it's Kickstarter or whether it's the direct market and my big 2 books I buy and everything, you get an issue one and you're like, sometimes you're like, well, it was okay, and you don't want to go and keep reading it because money is tight, but at the same time, like, you really got to give a book a couple issues to kind of
Exactly.
get in.
Yeah,
But I think you did a good job of setting it up well in issue one to intrigue people to get to issue two, and that's a big get right there.
Yeah, I believe so. And money is definitely tight right now. So what I kind of reduce them as best I can. And if you get all 3 issues on digital, then it's only $17, which is pretty cheap, especially nowadays, expensive as everything is. So I have that tier that's been pretty popular. I'm more into the printed page, but so I made it as cheap as I could possibly. Is for the 1, 2, and 3 is $35. So I try to combine it because it's 14 for issue 3, and then the cover for issue 2 was 14, and then 12. So, but I've reduced it down to 35 for 1, 2, and 3 on print, and then 17 for digital. It's because it is very tight. My Alpha Dogs, which was my last Kickstarter before this, I had most backers I ever had, but I had the most digital tiers sold than I ever have by far. So people are definitely, they would support the comic, but they're getting a lot of digital tiers now because everything is so expensive.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with somebody behind the scenes about that because they weren't offering digital, and that's always so confusing to me. It's like you already have to format it for the printing, and I understand it's a little different to format for a digital read, but it's similar. Like I've done it before; it's similar, and it just seems like free money. Even if 2 people get it, it's like it just seems like free money to me.
But, yeah, it does. Now you do make more. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I make more money when people buy the comic, just because to print is not that expensive. Mm-hmm. But it's the what people perceive, I guess, that the creators making more money off the digital when really we make more money off the printed. But like I said, people don't have money and you got to pay for shipping and stuff, so it gets a real expense for people. So it's always a great idea, I think, to offer the digital.
Yeah, definitely.
I bought a lot more digital than print myself, as much as I like print.
I know a lot of people that are switching all digital just because of space more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think it's really important to support the digital market, even if I personally don't prefer digital. I do read some stuff in digital. I get review books digitally and everything, but I buy my books every week in print. That's how I want to read them. But
yeah, me too. I'm a big print advocate.
So John, I mean, the book looks great. It looks like you're going to fund before this is over, and I have faith in you. And I hope everyone go out there and checks it out. But if they want to follow you online, is there a place we can send them? Do you make poor life decisions, like go on Twitter or anything like that?
Well, that's my Twitter handle. Yeah, is at Real Alpha Dogs. And then for my Instagram is alpha_dogs_comic. And I'm on Facebook. All you got to type in is John Dexter. It's usually at the top because I've got a few followers. So I'm easy to find on social media.
Awesome. And to everyone out there watching, listening, standing in a room while somebody else is listening, I'll have the link in the show notes down below to the Kickstarter. So make sure to click on that and check out the campaign. and see if it's something that interests you. And if you're into crime noir, Brubaker stuff, I'm sure it will. So, John, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with me today, and best of luck with the campaign, man.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.